I don't know what's worse, being humiliated for something you didn't do, or being misunderstood by the very people who gave you life. That night, my phone kept ringing while I was working on a report. I didn't answer at first, figured it was probably a wrong number, but by the 13th call from the same number, my chest tightened. Something wasn't right. The moment I picked up, my dad's voice thundered into my ear. Are you messing with us, Aurora? 50 cents? You think that's all we're worth to you? I froze. What? What are you talking about? I whispered, both shocked and scared. Don't play dumb, my mom snapped, her voice shrill and full of contempt. Your sister, Fiona, sends 2,000 every month, and you? 50 cents. I feel ashamed for you. I didn't understand any of it. I had been sending money consistently for nearly 6 months. It wasn't a huge amount. I work a clerical job at a dental clinic, but every month I transferred $1,500. Some months I even skipped breakfast just to make sure I had enough. I had the receipts saved in my email. That's not true. I've been sending $1,500 every month through the shared Silver Oak account. Liar, my dad roared. That account belongs to Fiona. That's what she said. You sent 50 cents once, then disappeared. I thought I must have misheard. But then everything started to sink in. Slowly, like acid eating through my brain. Fiona. That name cut through my memories like a knife. Fiona is my younger sister, 4 years younger and always treated like the princess destined for stardom. Unlike me, Fiona had the kind of beauty that made people stop and stare. Blue eyes, fair skin, and a smile my mother always described as May Sunshine. She started with amateur photo shoots and recently began using the name Fi to brand herself as a mental wellness and beauty influencer. I thought I had made peace with always falling short compared to her, but I was wrong. My hands trembled as I opened the banking app, and then, like a slap to the face, I saw the sender listed as Standard Phi Oak. Recipient, Mom and Dad, love forever. My face flushed with heat. Fiona had registered the shared account using my idea, but in her own name. And worst of all, I was the one sending the money, but she got all the credit and praise. I tried to explain. Mom, Dad, I'm the one sending the money. Fiona set up the account, but I transfer the funds every month. I've even been working extra shifts just to keep up. Enough, Mom cut me off. You're always talking about how hard you work and how much you sacrifice. But look at Fiona. She earns real money and actually thinks of the family. You live alone, party, and have no sense of responsibility. I don't want to hear another word. I had never felt so erased in my life. Her words were like a cloth thrown over every effort I had made, then set on fire. If my money's a joke to you, then don't expect another cent, I said, trying to keep my voice from shaking, and hung up. After that call, I just sat there. The pain wasn't in the yelling. It was in realizing that I was an outsider to my own family. I, the one who skipped meals, gave up vacations, worked overtime, was being compared to someone who never paid her own phone bill. I didn't sleep that night. My mind kept circling one question. What am I to them? I hadn't planned on telling anyone, but the next morning while at work, I found myself sending a message to Erin, my best friend since high school, now a financial advisor at a startup. I need to talk. It's about my family. Really serious? That phone call didn't just hurt, it dragged my whole life backward, forcing me to face memories I thought I had buried for good. Some things you can learn to forget, but the feeling of being treated like leftover clutter in your own home, you never really unfeel that. I was born in Flagstaff, Arizona, into a family where all eyes and all expectations were on Fiona. I'm 4 years older than her, and logically I should have been the one receiving the first doses of love and attention. But the moment Fiona arrived, I became the forgotten draft. Fiona was born with a face like an angel, something my mom repeated endlessly, especially when guests were around. This is Fiona, the jewel of our family. Look at her eyes. They're like a living doll. And me? I stood in the background, clutching my shirt, each word stabbing like a needle. Aurora, well, she's sweet, a bit quiet. That was all they said about me. Quiet. Average. Nothing special. I remember when I was 8, Mom took us for family portraits. Fiona wore a brand new white lace dress, her hair curled like a baby shampoo commercial. Me? I had on a hand-me-down dress from a cousin in Denver, stained at the sleeves. The photographer asked me to sit off to the left, out of the light, while Fiona was placed dead center in the frame. I once asked Mom, why don't I get to wear a dress like Fiona's? She glanced at me, cold. Why do you need to stand out? Your sister's the one who's going to do big things. I fell silent. Kids who grow up being treated unfairly don't learn to fight back, they learn to endure. By the time I was 11, Fiona said she wanted her own room. Mom turned to me without blinking. Aurora, move into the laundry room. Your sister needs space to study. But where will I sleep? You can lay a mattress in the corner, fold it up after each night. And that's how I ended up sleeping under the stairs, just like Harry Potter, surrounded by fabric softener and the roar of the washing machine. Meanwhile, Fiona had her own room, a princess bed, a closet full of new clothes, and weekly ballet, piano, and singing lessons, paid for by our parents. I once dreamed of taking an art class, just a basic one, but when I asked, Mom shut it down without a second thought. You need to be practical, Aurora. Don't act like those silly kids. What's drawing going to get you? But when Fiona said she wanted acting lessons, the very next day, Mom enrolled her in the most expensive class in town. Fiona has talent. You have to invest to bring out the diamond, she said. I still have an old notebook, the cover's falling apart, where I used to sketch little drawings in pencil. Every page was the back of some receipt. No one noticed, no one cared. But it was the only space where I could just be. Fiona got more entitled by the day. She was used to being spoiled. Whenever I had something, no matter how small, she'd come and take it. Let me borrow this. Actually, never mind, I'll keep it, she'd say, pocketing my favorite marker without waiting for permission. I'd complain, and Mom would say, You're the older sister, let her have it. But it's mine. Don't be selfish, Aurora. That's ugly behavior. I heard selfish so many times. I started to believe that my feelings were wrong. That if I was sad, angry, or wanted something, I was being a bad daughter. And so I got used to not having choices, not being asked, not being seen. My dad, who was usually the quieter one, wasn't any different. Whenever Fiona brought home a certificate of achievement, he'd take the whole family out to eat. When I did well in class, he would just nod. Yeah, keep trying. When I was 16, I once thought about running away, but I had nowhere to go. Instead, I wrote down everything I had endured in a journal I hid under my mattress. Maybe if someone read it now, they'd understand why I've become who I am today. A 28-year-old woman who no longer believes in so-called close-knit families. Even now, when I look back on my childhood, I don't feel sadness. I feel rage. Because some wounds never heal. They just sit quietly inside you, waiting for the day they erupt like wildfire. And that day seems to have arrived. I used to believe that even if I wasn't beautiful or spoiled, I could still escape the toxic cycle of my family through education. I wasn't asking for much, just a simple dream, to study and become a school counselor, someone who could help the voiceless kids like I once was. I quietly studied for the SAT using borrowed books from the public library. I enrolled in the school's student advising program. I didn't have a personal computer or a mentor, but I did everything on my own. Because I knew if I didn't break free, I'd be buried alive in the unfairness of this house. I remember that day so clearly. A spring afternoon, sunlight slanting through the laundry room window where I slept every night. I was holding the acceptance letter from Northern Arizona University, majoring in psychology. I ran into the kitchen, heart about to burst with joy. Mom, I got in with a 50% scholarship. We can pay the rest over time if you and Dad could just help me with the initial costs. I hadn't even finished my sentence when Mom put down the apple peeler and crossed her arms, looking at me like I'd just said the most ridiculous thing in the world. Aurora, where do you think we're going to find the money to send you to college? I froze. But the first semester only costs around $3,000. I could take out loans or work part-time. I just need help covering the start. Dad walked in from the living room and cut me off with a tired voice. No, you're the older sister. You need to think about Fiona's future. She needs money for school in California. It felt like a bucket of ice water to the face. You mean I have to give it up? Call it a sacrifice, Mom said coldly, her eyes unwavering. Fiona has talent, acting, media. Those fields need the right environment. You're just planning to become a school counselor in this tiny town. How is that even comparable? I was stunned. I studied day and night to get accepted. Why doesn't Fiona apply for scholarships? Why is it always me who has to give something up? Mom narrowed her eyes, voice rising in anger. You're the big sister. You set the example. You can't be selfish. If you're really good, you can make it without college. I bit my lip until it bled. I didn't argue anymore. Not because I agreed, but because I understood, clearly. In this house, my voice never mattered. Fiona, the beloved princess, chose to major in communications at an expensive private college in Los Angeles. As soon as I gave up my dream, my parents used up all their savings, including the portion my grandfather had left for me, to pay her tuition. I found out months later, overhearing Mom brag to my aunt in Seattle on the phone. Fiona's now a top communications student. Gotta invest early if you want fame. And Aurora? Oh, that girl, she's just working, taking care of herself. Just one sentence, a few words, enough to erase all my efforts. I graduated high school with honors, but instead of heading to college like the rest of my classmates, I started working as a call center receptionist at a dental clinic in downtown Flagstaff. The job was dull, repetitive, and barely paid enough to live, but I had no other option. I rented a tiny room on the third floor of an old apartment complex. No elevator, no soundproofing, and winters so cold I had to sleep in 3 layers of clothing. Every morning, I cooked rice to bring with me. Every night, I came home exhausted, body aching, heart empty. Meanwhile, Fiona lived in a luxury dorm, posting weekly pictures of her coffee, her lectures, her parties, and Mom always shared them on Facebook with captions like, "My baby girl, so proud of her." I used to cry out of jealousy, but eventually that pain turned into something else, bitterness. And then, fire. I told myself, if they stole my dream once, I won't let them do it again. So I started saving, quietly, every cent, with a plan no one, not even Fiona, could see coming. I still remember the exact day Fiona called me. Her voice was light as a breeze, but each word landed like a stone on my chest. Hey sis, I think it's time we did something for Mom and Dad. I mean, they raised us, right? I stayed silent, not because I didn't get it, but because I was trying not to let out the sigh stuck in my throat. Fiona continued, in a rehearsed tone like she was reading from a script. I've been sending $2,000 a month. How about you chip in the rest to make it $4,000 total? We're daughters. Sharing the load is normal. Call it filial duty. I clenched the phone, my fingers turned white. I didn't know how Fiona lived in LA, but me? I worked an office job with a monthly salary of $2,800 after taxes, about $2,300. My rent alone ate up $950. After food, gas, and insurance, I was lucky if I had $200 left. And now she wanted me to honor our parents by sending $2,000 a month? Fiona, are you serious? I don't have that kind of money. You think I'm rolling in cash? I have to budget too. But you know, our parents are getting old. They're not what they used to be. And you're the oldest, right? That same phrase, you're the oldest. I thought I had escaped it, but no. It came back, stabbed me in the chest, over and over like a bleeding refrain. I didn't respond right away, but 2 weeks later I started working night shifts at a construction site on the outskirts of town, a place where women were practically non-existent. I applied to be a night guard, just needed to keep watch and log vehicle entries. But no one warned me about how cold the nights would be. Every night, from 10 o'clock in the evening to 6 in the morning, I stood guard in the cold wind, sometimes with rain whipping my face like a lash. Each morning, I came home with legs that felt like they were about to collapse, took a cold shower because the water heater was broken, and rushed to change clothes for my main shift. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. I can't even remember how many nights I fell asleep in the staff break room, my head slumped on the table, dreaming that I was sitting in a college lecture hall I had never stepped foot in. I cut out every unnecessary expense. No morning coffee, no Netflix, no new clothes. I even canceled my dental insurance just to make sure I could send exactly $2,000 into the account Fiona had set up every month. I think we should use a shared name when sending the money, so mom and dad feel like it's from both of us. I'm calling it Heart Together, okay? Fiona texted. I agreed. At the time, I still believed she was being sincere. Every time I transferred the money, Fiona would text. Good job, sis. Mom and dad must be so proud of us. No one knew what I had sacrificed to earn that so-called good job. One night, an older construction worker walked over to me, handed me a bottle of hot water, and said, "Not often you see a girl stand out here like this. What are you running from?" I didn't answer, but my eyes at that moment must have said everything. I started coughing nonstop in the 13th week. But I didn't dare go to the doctor. I was afraid of missing a workday, afraid of being late on a transfer, afraid Fiona would call and scold me for being selfish. The one time I nearly broke down was when I got a message from my mother. "Thank you, sweetheart. Lately, your dad and I have been well taken care of by Fiona. We're so lucky to have a daughter like her." A daughter like her. I stared at those words. My heart felt like it was being crushed in someone's fist. I replied with just 2 words. "Yes, very lucky." Then I turned off my phone. After half a year of living like a ghost, I started to realize something wasn't right. Fiona was still living like a social media star, while I was physically and emotionally drained. I didn't dare stop, but I also began to wonder, if love means destroying yourself, is it still love? I thought that if I tried hard enough, stayed quiet long enough, I would at least earn some recognition, a thank you, a kind look from my parents. But I was wrong, bitterly wrong. That morning started like any other. I was folding my thin blanket after the night shift, eyes burning from lack of sleep, when the phone rang. The screen flashed, "Dad." I answered, but before I could say a word, his voice exploded like fire. "Aurora, are you brainless? 50 cents? You think I'm a beggar or something?" I went numb. What? What are you talking about? You sent exactly 50 cents to your mom's account, some kind of joke? Are you trying to humiliate us? On the other end, my mother also screamed, unable to hide her contempt. I really don't know how I gave birth to someone so ungrateful. Fiona's been sending $2,000 every month. And you? You won't even part with a single dollar. I was speechless. No, that can't be. I've been sending the full amount through the Heart Together account Fiona created. Every month. Consistently. Stop making things up, Mom shouted. Fiona told us she's the one paying everything. You're just chipping in to look good. I could barely breathe. Any explanation was pointless. Everything I had worked for had just been tossed out like a bag of trash. After hanging up, my hands trembled uncontrollably. I opened the banking app, checked every transaction, every transfer of $2,000 labeled "to Dad and Mom with love." Each one came from my account. But the account representative was Fiona O. She had used my name to send the money, but when showing the statements to our parents, she removed the sender's name. Only her own appeared as the account holder. I burst into tears, not from anger, but from the kind of betrayal that cuts to the bone. I called back. No one answered. I sent texts. No reply. By noon, I got a message from an old classmate, Mia, who now works with Fiona at a small advertising firm. The message contained a single screenshot. It was a conversation from their internal group chat. Fiona, my sister, she just threw in 50 cents to save face. I'm the one carrying this whole family. She's so selfish and loves to act like a victim. My blood ran cold. Only one word echoed in my mind. Why? She hadn't even left me a shred of dignity. That night, I went to Aaron's office, my best friend, the one who had invited me to lunch a few weeks ago. I needed someone with a clear head, someone not tangled up in my family's mess. Aaron stared at me as I told her everything. Do you have proof? I handed her every document, bank statements, Mia's screenshot, my pay stubs, night shift timesheets. She went quiet for a moment, then said, like a final gavel slam, "You're being financially manipulated and publicly humiliated. You've got grounds to cut ties, if that's what you want." I shook my head. Not want, need. Aaron, I can't live like this anymore. That night, I wrote a long email to my parents and Fiona. I attached all the evidence, no fancy words, no begging for forgiveness, just facts, clear and undeniable. At the end, I wrote, "From this moment on, I will not send another cent. Do not contact me. I am no longer your free ATM, and I am no longer a shadow that just endures. Fiona, you didn't just take my money, you killed what little trust I had left in blood ties." I never received a reply, just a status update on Fiona's social media 2 days later. Some people live selfishly but love playing the victim. Pray they disappear from your life soon. Likes 314, including my mom. I didn't cry. I wasn't angry anymore. I just felt empty. I used to think that if I were strong enough to cut ties, I'd feel relief. But what I didn't expect was the further I stepped back, the clearer I saw the entire web of lies I had once been forced to believe. 1 week after I sent that final email, I got a call from Erin, my best friend from high school, now working at a financial consulting firm in Phoenix. Her voice went quiet as she began, "I did some digging. There are things you need to know." I gripped my phone, afraid to guess. Fiona hasn't earned a single cent like she claims. The agency where she bragged about being a media rep actually terminated her contract back in March. Every photo she posts is either part of an unpaid collaboration or completely staged. I said nothing. My mind went blank. "And the so-called debt she said your parents were struggling with?" Erin paused, then emphasized each word. "Completely made up. Your parents don't owe any money to the bank. They still have a savings account with nearly $60,000, possibly part of the inheritance your grandfather left behind." A chill ran down my spine. Every word Erin said felt like a scissor cutting through the last thread of delusion I was still holding on to. "There's more. The person who gave me this info is a colleague of mine. She used to be Fiona's classmate in California. She said Fiona often played the selfless sister card to gain sympathy from others. I couldn't believe I had given up sleep, meals, and endured freezing nights at a construction site to protect the image of someone who was using me as a tool to boost her reputation. That night, I opened Fiona's social media page, where she was still posting consistently. Pictures of fancy breakfasts with avocado and multigrain toast. Behind-the-scenes shots from photo shoots that were actually staged in cheap rented studios. Each photo came with a caption. "Working hard for family is a choice, not an obligation." She was right about one thing. It's not an obligation, but she never chose to do it. A few days later, my parents suddenly called. I hesitated for a moment, then picked up. Before I could say anything, my mom's voice poured in, sweet as honey. "Aurora, we understand now. Fiona, there was just a little misunderstanding. We've talked to her already." I said nothing. "You stopped sending money without saying a word. We had to reorganize everything. Now we're short 2 months, already." I let out a cold laugh. "You're not in debt, and the money Grandpa left me, it's still there, isn't it?" Silence. I could hear the wind whistling through the window on their end. Then my dad spoke, his voice suddenly stern. "The money Grandpa left was for the family. If you're not contributing any more, then we'll have to use that." "That was left specifically for me. There's a legal statement," Aha replied calmly, as if we were talking about buying bread. "You don't have the right to speak to your parents like that. Don't forget who raised you." I scoffed. "So what now? You're going to steal the inheritance too? so Fiona can buy a new designer bag or so you can top off your casino chips. My mom's tone suddenly turned sharp. Aurora, that's too much. Do you even know what people will say if they find out you disowned your family over money? I inhaled deeply. They'll say, I'm the only one in this family who has any self-respect. I hung up before they could say anything else. The feeling afterward? Not relief, just a long, cold emptiness, as if I had just shut the door on the place that had held me captive for 28 years. 3 days later, I received a notice from my lawyer. Someone had filed a request to reclaim control of the inheritance trust my grandfather left in my name. Their claim? The daughter is unfit to manage finances due to a history of defiance against the family. I sat silently in Erin's office, the late afternoon sunlight pouring through the window onto the stack of documents she had just printed. Erin looked up, her eyes cold and clear. Aurora, this isn't about emotions anymore. This is a legal battle, and I won't let you go through it alone. I nodded. I no longer felt powerless. After all those dark months, I stopped waiting for a light at the end of the tunnel. I carved my own way out. The shock of my family trying to take the last thing my grandfather left me didn't destroy me. It did the opposite. It made me realize if I didn't stand up for myself, no one else would. No one. With Erin's help, I transferred the entire estate and trust ownership into a personal trust fund under my name with no ties to my family whatsoever. Then I did something I had dreamed of since I was 16. I enrolled in a certification program for small business advising at a reputable institute in Phoenix. 3 months, 6 subjects, over 200 hours of self-study and weekly evaluations. At first, I felt like a fish out of water. I wasn't someone who excelled at public speaking or strategy, but I had one thing that no one else in that classroom had: lived experience. I knew what it was like to be exploited, to be dismissed, to survive on your own. I understood the value of every dollar. I understood the feeling of being crushed until you no longer dared to dream. And I decided to use that to become someone who helps small businesses, places where every decision affects someone's entire family, just like mine once did. By the end of the course, I was top of the class. My presentation on post-COVID financial recovery strategies for small businesses was invited to the Phoenix Business Circle Community Forum. Erin was the first to stand and applaud that day. After the event, she pulled me aside. Aurora, I have a job offer for you. Not because we're friends, because you've earned it. 3 days later, I started my new job at Claymore and Fields Consulting, where Erin is the branch director. I was hired as a strategic client advisor for SMEs, small and medium enterprises, with a starting salary of $6,800 per month, triple what I used to earn at the dental clinic. I moved out of the cramped third-floor unit in that run-down apartment complex and into a small studio filled with light, with a balcony facing Desert Willow Park. No more rats, no more mold, and, most importantly, no one can enter my life unless I let them. I changed my phone number, changed my email, locked down my social media. I started each morning by making my own coffee, turning on some light jazz, and writing out my plan for the day. No one yelled at me, no one asked for money, no one called me useless. I learned how to love myself again, little by little. At noon, I often walked to a small cafe near the office for lunch. One time, the owner, Mrs. Ruth, asked me, "You always sit at this table, writing in that notebook. What are you working on?" I smiled. "I'm writing down the things my family never wanted me to say." One day, Erin stopped by my desk. She placed an invitation card on it and smiled brightly. "I'm getting married. I want you by my side that day, not as a bridesmaid, but as the one who pulled me out of my college mess. You deserve to be in the front row." I was silent for a moment, not because I was emotional, but because for the first time in my life, someone called me deserving. That night, I walked home with a takeout bag in hand, heart light as air. The streetlights glowed softly, the breeze was cool, and I didn't feel afraid anymore. I paused at the door, looked up at the night sky, and whispered, "Grandpa, I'm alive now, not just surviving, truly living. I thought that after everything I'd endured, nothing could surprise me anymore, but life has a strange way of closing one chapter with a free fall for those who once stood above. The first news came from Erin. On a Monday morning, as I was preparing a report for a new client, she tapped gently on my desk, her face more serious than usual. Aurora, your family just filed for bankruptcy in the Flagstaff District Court. I froze. What? Erin nodded. I confirmed it. They got involved with a shady pyramid scheme posing as an entertainment company. It promised to make Fiona a top actress in America. To invest, they mortgaged the house and drained their savings. I didn't know whether to laugh or feel sorry. They had put all their faith in a dream that never existed, only to lose what they once used to threaten me with: money. A few weeks later, I ran into Mrs. Lois, my former neighbor from the old apartment. She grabbed my arm at the market. Miss Aurora, did you hear? Your parents are working at the car wash down the street. I saw them wiping down each car, soaked in sweat. I nodded. I know, working is the right thing to do. Mrs. Lois sighed and whispered, and your sister Fiona, she's a mess. Heard she's working at a bar, but got fired a few times because of her attitude. Someone said she drinks like a fish. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel satisfaction. Just emptiness. Not from regret, but because I felt nothing for them anymore. I had spent my youth searching for love, hoping one day they would change, would finally see my worth, but now I understand. Some people will never see anything beyond their own shadows. That May, I flew to Santa Barbara to attend Erin's wedding, the friend who saved my life from the edge. The ceremony was held by the beach, golden sunset shimmering over the water like scattered gold. I walked across the lawn in an olive green dress, my hair flowing gently with the sea breeze. No one knew I was the daughter cut off by her family. No one called me selfish. I was simply me. Aurora Bennett, 29 years old, an independent strategic advisor, standing on my own 2 feet. After the ceremony, while guests sipped champagne and laughed, Erin pulled me aside, grinning mischievously. I want you to meet someone. His name's Nick, my husband's business partner and the lead architect at Black Ridge Design. I tilted my head. I'm good, not planning on dating right now. I know, but there's nothing wrong with chatting with a man who actually listens, right? Nick appeared a few minutes later, tall in a crisp blazer, calm brown eyes. He shook my hand with a smile that wasn't forced or rushed. We sat at a table near the stage, slightly removed from the upbeat music. Nick told me he once dropped out of college and worked all kinds of side jobs before starting his own firm. I was surprised by the sincerity in his words. No bragging, no embellishing. And you, Nick asked, why did you choose business consulting? I sipped my wine, eyes drifting toward the distant sea. Because I grew up in a family that didn't believe in me, and I want to help people like me. Talented people who've been made to believe they're worth nothing. Nick said nothing, just nodded, his gaze lingering on my face a little longer. Sounds like a pretty amazing reason to start over. The evening ended with fireworks lighting up the night sky. As guests departed, Nick gently said, while walking me to the taxi, Aurora, I hope this isn't the last time we meet. I looked at him, my lips curving slightly. I hope so too. 1 month later, we had dinner at a small Italian restaurant in Scottsdale. No pressure, no expectations, just 2 grown-ups, both bruised by life, learning to believe in the future. For the first time in my life, I didn't have to hide my wounds, didn't have to pretend to be strong. I was allowed to be myself. Vulnerable, smart, scarred, and still respected. And on one gentle evening like that, when Nick asked, if you could say one thing to your 16-year-old self, what would it be? I didn't hesitate. I say, don't wait for someone to save you, save yourself, then you'll fly. And I did fly, away from the broken nest, out of the cage of meaningless sacrifice, and into a sky of my own making. Aurora's story is a powerful reminder that not everyone born into your family is truly your kin. Despite betrayal, manipulation, and rejection by her own blood, she chose not to live in bitterness. Instead, Aurora bravely stepped out of the shadows and rebuilt her life with her own hands. She didn't just reclaim her freedom, she found love, self worth, and a future on her own terms. Self respect, clarity, and resilience. That was her greatest triumph. What do you think about Aurora's journey? Was she too harsh, or did she fully earn her freedom? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more heartfelt stories about family and life.